Welcome to the Angel Next Door podcast, your gateway to the dynamic world of angel investing. I'm your host, Marsha Dawood, and together we will demystify what it means to invest in early stage companies, who's behind it, and how anyone can be a part of it. If you've ever wondered how you can affect the change you want to see in the world, then tune in to learn more. In this episode, I'm talking to fellow author Lori Van Dusen, who wrote Running with Grace. Lori is an extremely accomplished finance professional who went from working for big firms to being the CEO of her own firm. Together, we explore the power of money mindset, the massive wealth transfer on the horizon, and how shifting our perspective on money can help us align our finances with what truly matters, using it as a force for good. Enjoy the show. Lori, welcome to the Angel Next Door podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be invited, Marsha.
So we're about to come into a pretty significant wealth transfer to women over the next several years, trillions of dollars. And I've talked to a lot of women. We've talked about this on the podcast in the past about their money mindset. And I'm actually surprised at how many women keep money in cash or some type of cash equivalent. There's almost like a fear or not necessarily like a risk intolerance, but more of like just a not knowing or some type of a fear around money. So tell us, like, from your experience and all of the extremely insightful conversations that you've had over the years, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's probably true more than it's not. I think that there's a confidence that you have to build up around money and empowerment. And we were talking before the show, and I wanted to share this a little bit more with the audience. So I did a keynote speech for the National Susan B. Anthony House and Museum on the occasion 2 weeks ago of her birthday. It's a birthday celebration, and they're raising a bunch of money for a big museum and house. And the theme of the talk and the event was the power of the purse, because Susan B. Anthony, who most people know as the advocate for women's right to vote, suffragist, it was important to her that women in her time, let's say 1870, if a woman earned any kind of wage, it was immediately her husband's. It was not hers. And she gave numerous speeches, probably more speeches on this topic of financial independence and the power of money in terms of women's independence and their right to choose things and their right to navigate life by keeping their own wages. And she's a big advocate of women's careers in nursing, medicine. There's a whole kind of history lesson in this. But I was thinking a lot about her when I wrote my speech and I delivered it. And she felt it was so important. And I thought, okay, think about this. This is the 1800s. Susan B. Anthony went between, in her lifetime, the Gilded Age and the Wild West, telling her story about women's empowerment, the women's right to vote. She didn't live to see the 19th Amendment ratified, but she changed history. And I thought, how did I end up on Wall Street? I know this seems like a leap, but I actually grew up in Rochester. And when I started researching her, I grew up with about a 5-minute car ride from where she grew up. And I thought, is there something in the water or the air? Because I always never thought about this. Why have I never thought that I didn't belong in a male dominated industry or didn't belong managing money? Or why are women such a minority in venture capital and finance? And it gets back to your question. And I think a lot of it comes from, in my life, early education and mentorship. And I think in my world, what I found is women aren't comfortable because they either haven't had to make the decisions, they haven't really been empowered to make the decisions, and they haven't had somebody encourage them or really understand their risk tolerance. Women are actually very good stewards of money. I don't want to make some sweeping generalization, but women are very good stewards of money. They're very good investors. They're less likely to gamble or take crazy risks, but they need to make educated decisions. And once they have education, they don't need to see every tree in the forest to make a decision. They make a decision, but they need a good advocate, somebody who's going to take an educational approach, I think. And I was lucky enough to have that when I was a kid. Again, came from nothing, but I had a great mentor, my grandfather, who loved the stock market, loved investing, didn't have a lot of money at all, but shared with me and showed me when I was a little kid. And I talk about that in the book. And that's how I think basically I ended up on Wall Street. And the tie to Susan B. Anthony is, without Susan B. Anthony, I don't think he would have. My mom was the CFO of our small family business, but she told me in the 60s and 70s when she would write letters, because there were no cell phones, she'd write letters and communicate that way. She would sign them A. Van Dusen, because if people found out she was a woman, they wouldn't want to do business with our little company. So I thought, wow, how times have changed.
In this